The quiet hum of the Aethel was Elara's lullaby. It was a sound as constant and comforting as her own heartbeat, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through the floor plates of her small, cozy room. Outside her viewport, the gas giant Xylos spun in majestic slow motion, its sapphire and emerald bands swirling into an endless dance. Above it, like scattered jewels on an inky cloth, lay the stars. Elara lay tucked into her bed, a soft, breathable quilt pulled up to her chin. She wasn't sleepy yet, not truly. Her eyes, wide and bright with a child's boundless curiosity, were fixed on the distant pinpricks of light. Sometimes, she imagined they were tiny, watchful eyes, blinking slowly across the vast expanse of the cosmos. Tonight, one star in particular seemed to twinkle with an unusual intensity, a shimmering sapphire that pulsed faintly, almost as if calling to her. The Aethel was a city in space, a colossal orbital habitat that had been home to Elara's family for generations. Its curving walls enclosed entire ecosystems, forests of bioluminescent trees, shimmering lakes reflecting the artificial sunlight of the central spire, and bustling residential sectors where hydroponic gardens spilled over balconies. It was a marvel of engineering, a self-sustaining world designed to drift peacefully through the void, a beacon of life in the quiet dark. Yet, for all its wonders, Elara often felt a pull towards the outside, towards the true, untamed wilderness of space. Her grandmother, Lyra, always understood this feeling. Lyra's hands, gnarled with age but still nimble, had once guided starcraft through asteroid fields and charted courses through nebulae. Now, they were more often found tending to her cherished collection of exotic space flowers in her small biodome, or brewing fragrant herbal teas. But her eyes, the same warm, hazel color as Elara's, still held the distant glint of starlight. "Still counting the stars, little one?" Lyra's voice, soft as a whispered secret, drifted from the doorway. She carried a small cup of her calming chamomile blend, steam curling gently from its rim. Elara nodded, pushing herself up to a sitting position. "That one?" She pointed a slender finger at the pulsating sapphire star. "It feels different tonight, Grandma." Lyra moved to sit on the edge of the bed, the mattress sighing softly under her weight. She took Elara's hand, her thumb tracing lazy circles on the back of it. "Ah, yes, the Heart of Lyra, some call it. Named after an ancient constellation, not me, mind you," she chuckled. "It's a variable star, dear. It brightens and dims over long cycles, but sometimes, if you listen closely, it has a special message just for you." Elara leaned her head against her grandmother's arm. "What kind of message?" "Of wonder, of possibility, of the great tapestry that holds us all," Lyra mused, her gaze drifting to the viewport. "Did I ever tell you about the Star Weavers, Elara?" Elara shook her head, her curiosity piqued. Lyra had a story for every star, every comet, every whisper of the void. These were her favorites. "Long, long ago," Lyra began, her voice dropping to a storytelling cadence, "before the Jathal was even dreamed of, before our ancestors settled on Xylos moon for a brief time, there were those who could see the universe not just as scattered points of light, but as a living, breathing tapestry. They were called the Star Weavers. They didn't just navigate by the stars. They understood their language, their currents, their very essence." "How did they do that?" Elara breathed, mesmerized. "They had a gift," Lyra said, a faraway look in her eyes. "And a tool, a magnificent, intricate machine woven from starlight and pure thought, or so the legends say. It allowed them to perceive the cosmic threads, the streams of dark matter that guide galaxies, the gravitational currents that pull nebulae into being, the shimmering pathways of exotic particles. They could see the patterns, the connections, the delicate balance of everything." "Like a map?" Elara asked. "More than a map, child. A living, breathing chart, constantly shifting and evolving. With it, the Star Weavers could guide ships through the most treacherous star fields, past black holes, and through storms of cosmic radiation that would tear ordinary vessels apart. They could find lost worlds, rediscover forgotten pathways, and even, some whispered, mend the very fabric of space where it had frayed. Elara imagined a giant loom, spanning galaxies, with shimmering threads of light and shadow. Did they really mend space? Lyra smiled, a soft, wistful curve of her lips. Perhaps that's just a story for young dreamers. But what is true is that they were essential. Without the Star Weavers, our ancestors would never have found their way through the Great Dark, that time of interstellar chaos, when the old pathways were lost, and humanity scattered across 1,000 worlds. Where are they now? Elara asked, a pang of sadness in her chest. Such a wonderful gift, lost to time. Lyra sighed, a sound like leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. No one knows for certain. Some say they simply faded away. Their wisdom no longer needed once stable hyperlanes were established. Others believe they journeyed beyond the known galaxy, following a whisper only they could hear. And some believe they simply went dormant, waiting for a time when their unique vision would be needed again. She squeezed Elara's hand. But their legacy lives on, in the stories and in the hearts of those who still look at the stars with wonder. Elara finished her tea, the warmth spreading through her. The story settled in her mind, a seed of magic planted deep. She imagined herself as a star weaver, her fingers tracing invisible lines of light, guiding ships through the vastness. It was a comforting thought, a thrilling dream. A few days later, the comforting hum of the Yaethel began to change. It was subtle at first, a barely perceptible shift in pitch, a slight tremor in the deck plating. Then came the announcements, calm and measured, but laced with an underlying current of concern. Attention, all residents. We are experiencing minor fluctuations in our primary long-range navigation array. Our engineers are working to recalibrate the system. Please be advised of potential temporary disruptions to interstellar communications. Elara heard the messages relayed more frequently. Her parents, usually so focused on their work in the Yaethel's agricultural domes, began to speak in hushed tones about stellar drift and unpredictable currents. One evening, Lyra found Elara in the main observation dome, a vast crystalline sphere that offered a panoramic view of Silos and the starfield beyond. Elara was tracing patterns on the dome's surface, trying to make sense of the new, urgent charts projected onto the glass. The sapphire star, the heart of Lyra, still pulsed, but now it seemed to pulse with a worried rhythm. "It's getting worse, isn't it, Grandma?" Elara asked, her voice small against the immense silence of space. Lyra put an arm around her. "The Yaethel is an old ship, Elara, a magnificent one, but old. Her systems, though diligently maintained, are not as robust as they once were. The primary navigation array, the stellar compass, has served us well for centuries, but it's struggling with these new currents." "What new currents?" "The Great River," Lyra explained, pointing to a swirling, indistinct band of light and shadow that stretched across a distant sector of space. It looked like a cosmic river, flowing slowly and majestically. It's a natural pathway of dark energy and interstellar dust, usually far from our trajectory. But something, perhaps a nearby supernova ripple or an unseen gravitational anomaly, has shifted its course. We're drifting closer to its turbulent edge. Is that bad? Elara's heart gave a little thump. Not immediately dangerous, no, but the Great River is known for its unpredictable eddies and currents. It could pull us far off course or worse, into a region of space where dark matter interference is too strong for our communications and warp drives. We need to find a stable path through it, or around it, quickly. The stellar compass, for all its advanced capabilities, was designed for established routes, not for navigating the chaos of an untamed cosmic river. It relied on known stellar signatures and stable gravitational fields. The Great River, however, was a dynamic, ever-changing entity. That night, Elara couldn't sleep. The hum of the Yaethel felt less like a lullaby, and more like a warning. The stories of the Star Weavers filled her mind. Kay understood their language, their currents, their very essence. Could their ancient knowledge, or their lost tool, be the answer? A memory stirred, a faint whisper, from a time when she was much smaller. Lyra, her grandmother, her face illuminated by the soft glow of an ancient datapad, talking about a forgotten wing of the habitat, a place where old magic slept. The next morning, Elara sought out Lyra. Grandma, you once told me about a part of the Yaethel, a place where things were kept, things from a long, long time ago. Do you remember? Do you remember? Lyra's eyes, usually so bright, seemed to cloud with a mixture of surprise and something akin to regret. Ah, yes, the archives of the Founders, a restricted sector, dear. It's been sealed for centuries, ever since the Great Silence. No one goes there anymore. But what if the Star Weaver's tool is there? Ilara pressed, her voice urgent. What if it could help us navigate the Great River? Lyra looked at her granddaughter, a long, searching gaze. She saw not just a child, but a flicker of the same deep wonder she herself possessed, a spark of understanding that transcended mere curiosity. The Star Weaver's tool, Ilara, is not merely a machine, it is a way of seeing, and it requires a heart that can truly listen to the stars. She paused, then a slow, knowing smile spread across her face. Perhaps it is time its slumber was disturbed. Securing access to the archives of the Founders was not easy. It required Lyra's highest security clearance, a relic from her past life as a chief navigator. Even then, it involved a holographic interview with the Yaethel's central AI, a calm, disembodied voice named Oracle, who questioned Lyra's intent with meticulous detail. Access to Sector Gamma 7, Sublevel 12, is restricted to authorized personnel for historical research purposes only. Oracle's voice resonated through their comms. Current environmental conditions indicate severe dust accumulation and potential atmospheric instability. Are you certain this access is necessary, Lyra 7? It is, Oracle. For the preservation of Yaethel and its inhabitants. A pause. Very well. Authorization granted for Lyra 7 and 1 designated assistant, Ilara 3. Duration: 6 standard cycles. Access protocols will be initiated. The journey to Sector Gamma 7 took them through rarely used maintenance tunnels and service lifts, the usual vibrant hum of the Yaethel, replaced by the quiet creak of aging metal and the faint whisper of filtered air. The air grew colder, dustier. When the final access door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit corridor, Ilara felt a shiver of anticipation and a touch of apprehension. The corridor stretched into gloom, lined with countless sealed chambers. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and forgotten things. Lyra produced a small, ancient lantern that cast a warm, flickering glow, pushing back the encroaching shadows. Most of this sector was sealed after the Great Silence, Lyra explained, her voice hushed. When the Yaethel was cut off from the rest of humanity for generations, many believed the old ways, the old technologies, were too dangerous or simply irrelevant in our new, isolated existence. They walked for what felt like an age, past chambers filled with forgotten tools, deactivated droids, and shelves upon shelves of datapads and crystalline memory drives, all coated in a fine layer of silvery dust. Ilara's fingers itched to explore, but Lyra kept them moving with a gentle hand on her shoulder. Finally, they arrived at a chamber whose entrance was unlike the others. Instead of a standard access panel, a complex array of interlocking symbols glowed faintly on the doorframe, pulsing with a soft, inner light. It was intricate, beautiful, and utterly alien compared to the functional aesthetics of the rest of the Yaethel. "This is it," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with reverence. "The observatory of the first weavers." Lyra placed her palm on a smooth obsidian-like panel beside the door. The symbols flared, then danced, rearranging themselves into a new pattern. A low hum emanated from within the chamber, and the massive door, seamless and unadorned, slid silently open, revealing a vast circular room beyond. Ilara gasped. The room was enormous, its ceiling arcing into a dome that seemed to stretch into infinity. In the center, bathed in a soft ethereal glow, stood the most wondrous machine Ilara had ever seen. It wasn't metallic or blocky like the Yaethel's navigation console. It was organic, almost alive. It was a loom, but unlike any earthly loom. Its frame was composed of swirling translucent crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light, like frozen nebulae. Thin, glowing threads, impossibly delicate, stretched between the crystalline pillars, converging at a central console. The console itself was a polished, dark sphere, upon which intricate, star-like patterns shimmered and shifted, as if reflecting a miniature galaxy. Above the console, suspended in mid-air, was a sphere of pure, condensed light, swirling with colors Elara couldn't name. It pulsed slowly, a beatific heart. "The Star Weaver," Lyra breathed, her voice thick with emotion. "It is real." Elara approached, her steps echoing softly in the vast chamber. The air here was different, cleaner, imbued with a faint scent of ozone and something else, something ancient and deeply resonant. She reached out a hesitant hand towards one of the glowing threads. It felt cool, alive, vibrating with a silent energy. The central sphere, the heart of the Star Weaver, intensified its glow as she drew closer. The shimmering patterns on the console pulsed faster, seeming to beckon. "It's beautiful," Elara whispered, tears pricking her eyes. It was even more magnificent than Lyra's stories had described. It felt less like a machine and more like a captured piece of the cosmos, waiting to be understood. "It is," Lyra agreed, standing a respectful distance behind her. "It integrates the user's consciousness, Elara. It allows you to feel the currents, to see the patterns with your own mind, not just through sensors." Elara reached out, her fingers trembling slightly, and touched the dark, polished surface of the central console. Immediately, a jolt of pure energy surged through her. It wasn't painful, but overwhelming. Images flooded her mind, not static pictures, but flowing, vibrant streams of data. She saw the great river, not as a blurry band, but as an intricate dance of dark matter and swirling plasma, its currents visible, its eddies almost audible. She saw the heart of Lyra, her sapphire star, pulsing with its message, and a myriad of other stars, each with its own song, its own gravitational pull, its own history. She felt the vastness, the interconnectedness, the delicate balance of the cosmos. It was breathtaking, terrifying, and utterly profound. She was no longer just Elara, a girl on the Yathel. She was a tiny mote, yet connected to everything, woven into the grand design. The glowing threads around the loom flared, casting vibrant patterns across the chamber walls. The sphere of light above the console pulsed rapidly, mirroring the rush of information into Elara's mind. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. The jolt receded, the images faded, and the overwhelming sensation of cosmic connection dimmed. The threads of the loom returned to their gentle glow, and the central sphere resumed its slow, steady pulse. Elara swayed, momentarily disoriented, her mind reeling from the sheer volume of information she had just experienced. She felt lightheaded, as if she had just stepped off a fast-spinning carousel. Lyra rushed to her side, steadying her. "Are you all right, child?" Elara blinked, trying to process what had just happened. I saw it, Grandma. The great river, it was alive, and the stars, they have voices." Lyra smiled, a deep, knowing smile. "I knew it. You have the gift, Elara, the sight of a weaver." She gently guided Elara to a low, curved bench nearby. But the Star Weaver demands more than just a touch. It demands understanding, practice, and above all, focus. It's an ancient machine and it's been dormant for a very long time. It needs to be reawakened, recalibrated, and its user must be trained. Elara looked back at the magnificent loom, a mixture of awe and trepidation filling her. The knowledge that she had touched something so powerful, something that held the key to their habitat's safety, was both exhilarating and daunting. Can I learn how to use it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lyra took Elara's hands in hers, her gaze unwavering. "You must, Elara. For the Gaethel, for all of us. The Star Weaver chose you, just as it chose your ancestors. It will take time, patience, and perhaps a little bit of courage, but I will be here to guide you, just as my own grandmother guided me." Elara looked from Lyra's determined face to the glowing, silent Star Weaver. The fate of the Yaethel, a world she loved, now rested on her shoulders, on her ability to learn the ancient art of weaving the stars. The task seemed impossibly vast, but a spark of resolution ignited within her. She had seen a glimpse of the cosmic tapestry, and now she felt an undeniable pull to learn its language. The quiet hum of the Yaethel still vibrated through the floor, but now, beneath it, Elara felt the faint, silent whisper of the Star Weaver waiting. The quiet hum of the IFL still vibrated through the floor, but now, beneath it, Elara felt the faint, silent whisper of the Star Weaver, waiting. It wasn't a sound, not really. It was a pressure behind her eyes, a warmth in her chest, and a subtle shift in the very air around her. The chamber, which had seemed empty save for the crystalline pillar, now thrummed with an invisible presence. Elara took a slow, deep breath, her heart thumping a rhythm against her ribs that was almost a counterpoint to the Jathel's deep thrum. "I'm ready," she whispered, her voice feeling small in the vastness of the implied cosmic connection. And then, it began. The crystalline pillar, previously inert, shimmered. Not with light from within, but as if it were reflecting a light that only Elara could perceive. Threads of luminous energy, finer than any spider silk, began to emanate from its surface, coiling and uncoiling in intricate silent dances. They were not solid, yet they cast faint, ethereal shadows on the polished floor. Each thread pulsed with a different hue, not colors she knew from the Gaetel's artificial suns, but deeper, more fundamental shades. The indigo of nascent nebulae, the searing white of a star's core, the ancient gold of a dying sun, the profound black violet of cosmic voids. This was the loom, she realized. Not a physical contraption of wood and metal, but a nexus of pure energy and light, a conduit to the grand tapestry itself. The Star Weaver's whisper intensified, not in volume, but in clarity. It didn't form words, but concepts, images and feelings flowed into Elara's mind. Observe, feel, understand. Waynes. Her first lesson was simply to perceive. She sat cross-legged before the shimmering pillar, her gaze fixed on the dancing threads. At first, it was an overwhelming kaleidoscope, a dizzying array of motion and color. Her mind reeled, trying to make sense of the chaos. She tried to categorize them, to find patterns, but they shifted too quickly, too fluidly. Frustration pricked at her. How could she ever wave this? It was like trying to catch water in a sieve. Not with the eyes alone, a whisper prompted, a gentle nudge in her awareness. With the heart. With the soul. Indin. Elara closed her eyes, letting go of the visual input. She focused on the feeling of the threads, the subtle vibrations they sent through the air, through her very being. She felt the cool, expansive quality of the void threads, the fiery intensity of the star threads, the nascent warmth of the nebula threads. It was like listening to an orchestra with a million different instruments, each playing its own unique note. Days blurred into nights within the weaving chamber. Elara ate and slept sparingly, drawn by an irresistible hunger for understanding. Her body, accustomed to the Yaethel's regulated rhythms, now functioned on a different plane. She learned to distinguish individual threads, not by their visual appearance, but by their energetic signature, their unique song. She could sense the slow, deliberate pulse of a galactic arm spiraling through the void, the frantic, energetic dance of a stellar nursery, the serene, ancient hum of a stable planetary system. The crystalline pillar, her silent mentor, began to respond to her growing perception. As she focused on a particular thread, it would brighten slightly, its energy flowing more strongly towards her. She learned that these threads weren't just abstract representations, they were the fabric of reality. Each one a strand of starlight, a ripple of gravity, a current of dark matter, a flow of cosmic energy. To weave, the Star Weaver's silent guidance resonated, is to harmonize. To mend, is to realign. Me? Very well. Her first practical exercise was excruciatingly difficult. The weaver presented her with a small, seemingly insignificant tangle of threads, no larger than her hand. It pulsed with a discordant hum, a tiny knot in the otherwise flowing tapestry. Juntangler, the whisper urged. Elara reached out, her fingers hovering above the shimmering knot. She tried to pull one thread free, but her hand passed through it, achieving nothing. She tried to mentally unravel it, but her thoughts felt clumsy, unrefined. The frustration returned, sharper this time. Her world, the Yaethel, was dying. She slumped back, discouraged. I can't, she whispered, the word hollow in the vastness of the chamber. Then, a new sensation. a gentle, firm pressure on her own hands, as if invisible hands were guiding hers. It wasn't physical contact, but a deep, resonant feeling of knowing how. It was the Star Weaver, patiently teaching her. Not with force, with understanding. San. Elara closed her eyes again, focusing on the tangled threads. She didn't try to pull. She tried to feel their individual paths, their intentions. She sensed the frustration in one thread, the anxiety in another, the desperate longing of a third to break free. It was like feeling the emotions of living beings, not just inert energy. Slowly, carefully, she extended her mental will, guided by the weaver. She imagined herself as a current of gentle air, flowing around the threads, coaxing them. She didn't pull, she eased. She didn't force, she persuading. With excruciating patience, she nudged one thread here, smoothed another there, untwisting the cosmic snarl with an almost imperceptible touch. And then, a tiny, almost imperceptible, clicking. The discordant hum lessened. The threads, still intertwined, now flowed in a more harmonious pattern. Elara opened her eyes. The knot was gone. The threads were still close, but they were no longer fighting each other. They moved with a newfound grace, like dancers who had found their rhythm. A wave of exhilaration washed over her, so potent it brought tears to her eyes. She had done it. A tiny, insignificant act in the grand scheme, but it was a start. A spark of hope, bright and defiant, ignited within her. The lessons grew more complex. She learned not just to untangle, but to yifui. The Star Weaver guided her through the creation of small, simple patterns, a miniature spiral nebula, a delicate chain of nascent stars, a shimmering veil of dark matter. It was like learning a new language, starting with individual letters, then words, then sentences. Each successful weave brought a deeper understanding, a greater connection to the cosmic forces at play. She discovered that the Star Weavers didn't just mend, they maintain. They ensured the delicate balance of the cosmos, nudging stray asteroids, guiding the birth of stars, calming solar flares, orchestrating the grand ballet of galaxies. Their art was the ultimate form of planetary and stellar management, a guardianship of the entire universe. As Elara's perception sharpened, she began to see the Star Weaver's presence more clearly. It wasn't a physical being, but a consciousness, an ancient, benevolent intelligence woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. It was the collective wisdom of generations of weavers, a living, breathing library of cosmic knowledge. And it was patiently pouring that knowledge into her. One day, the luminous threads radiating from the pillar coalesced into a vast, swirling projection. It wasn't just a display, it was a window. Elara gasped. Before her, stretching into infinity, was the true cosmic tapestry. Not as she had seen it in the brief, terrifying vision during her awakening, but in its full, majestic glory. She saw galaxies like iridescent pearls scattered across a velvet cloth, nebulae blooming like cosmic flowers, supernovas flaring like ephemeral jewels. She felt the gravity of black holes, the heat of suns, the icy chill of interstellar space, all without leaving the chamber. She was looking at the universe, not through a screen, but through the very threads that composed it. And within this breathtaking panorama, she saw the Sci-Fi. Her home, a tiny, fragile speck of light, a carefully woven pattern within the vast design. But now, through the weaver's enhanced vision, she could see the subtle flaws, the fraying edges of its unique pattern. The Ethel's design, she realized, was meant to draw energy from specific cosmic currents, to filter starlight, to sustain its internal ecosystems. But now, those currents were turbulent, diverted. The threads meant to filter light were becoming brittle, letting in harmful radiation. The threads meant to sustain life were weakening, losing their vibrant hues, growing thin and translucent. The damage wasn't a sudden tear, but a slow, insidious unraveling. It was as if a small, vital section of the tapestry was being slowly worn away by an invisible abrasion. The life support systems were failing not because of mechanical fault, but because the very cosmic threads that sustained them were fraying. The Star Weaver's guidance became more urgent now, infused with a poignant sadness. Abrasion grows. It is not an enemy, not a deliberate act. It is a misalignment. A resonance gone awry. And Elara's heart ached. The IFL was not being attacked. It was slowly, painfully, losing its place in the cosmic harmony. And the source of the abrasion, it was subtle, almost imperceptible. A faint, discordant vibration, originating from beyond the Yathel's immediate vicinity, a ripple in the fabric that was slowly, inexorably, rubbing against her home's delicate pattern. The weaver now began to show Elara specific weaving patterns designed for restoration and protection. These were far more complex than anything she had attempted before. They involved manipulating multiple threads simultaneously, adjusting their tension, their frequency, their very essence. It was like orchestrating a symphony with a million individual notes, ensuring each was perfect, each played in perfect harmony. She worked tirelessly, her mind a blur of light and energy. Her fingers, though not physically touching the threads, moved with an almost balletic grace, guided by instinct and the weaver's silent instruction. She learned to sense the tension of a thread, the color of its energy, the song of its vibration. She learned to use her own will as the shuttle, her focus as the loom's beam, her intention as the very act of weaving. Her body sometimes ached, her mind felt stretched to its limits, but the thought of her people, sleeping and living on the Yathel, spurred her on. She saw their faces in her mind's eye, the children laughing in the biodomes, the engineers meticulously maintaining systems, the scientists studying the stars she was now learning to weave. They depended on her, on this ancient forgotten art. One cycle, she was shown a pattern designed to reinforce the Yaethel's light-filtering threads. It was a shimmering, multi-layered weave, like a cosmic shield. She spent days, perhaps weeks, painstakingly recreating it, thread by thread, energy by energy. She poured every ounce of her concentration, every fiber of her being, into the task. Finally, with a deep, shuddering breath, she completed the pattern. It pulsed with a soft, protective glow, a miniature cosmic barrier. She felt a profound connection to it, as if a piece of her own essence was now woven into the fabric of the universe. "No," the weaver prompted, "connect it." Now, Gandhi. This was the ultimate test. To take her carefully crafted pattern and integrate it into the Yaethel's own cosmic signature. She focused on the faint, fraying threads of her home, reaching out with her amplified senses. She felt the delicate, vital connection points, like tiny, invisible sutures. With a surge of determination, Elara pushed her newly woven shield pattern towards the Yaethel's projection. It was like guiding a whisper across an infinite chasm. She had to be precise, gentle, yet firm. She imagined the shield settling into place, fusing with the Yaethel's existing threads, strengthening them. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a faint shimmer spread across the Yaethel's image. The dull, brittle threads she had seen before seemed to regain a fraction of their luster, their vibrancy. The discordant hum that had emanated from them lessened, replaced by a softer, more harmonious tone. Elara felt a subtle shift within the Yaethel itself. Not a dramatic change, but a quiet, almost imperceptible easing. A faint, distant sigh of relief. Had she done it? Had she truly made a difference? The Star Weaver's presence resonated with a feeling akin to satisfaction, a gentle warmth. Start. The abrasion continues, but the shield will slow its progress. There are many more threads to mend. Many more patterns to weave. Indeed. Elara looked at the vast cosmic tapestry, at the Yaethel's fragile beauty within it. She had only reinforced a tiny fraction of its protection, and the source of the insidious abrasion still lingered, a distant, unsettling tremor. The task ahead was still daunting, almost overwhelming. She was just one person, learning an ancient art that spanned millennia. But now, she wasn't just observing. She was acting. She was weaving. And with each thread she manipulated, with each pattern she wove, she felt her connection to the universe deepen, her understanding expand. The Yaethel was not just a ship, it was a living, breathing part of the cosmic fabric, and she was its guardian. The whisper of the Star Weaver was no longer just a distant guide. It was becoming a part of her, a resonant voice within her own being. She was learning to speak the language of the stars, and the universe was beginning to listen. There was so much more to learn, so much more to do. The distant, discordant vibration still hummed its silent threat, a persistent note of disharmony. But now Elara faced it not with fear, but with a burgeoning power, a growing skill, and an unwavering resolve. The cosmic loom awaited her next weave, and the fate of the Gaethel hung, shimmering, in the balance. The cosmic loom awaited her next weave, and the fate of the Gaethel hung shimmering, in the balance. Elara opened her eyes, though the light within her chamber was always a soft bioluminescent glow, mimicking the gentle ebb and flow of a deep ocean current. The Gaethel was more than a ship, she was a living biosphere, a vast self-sustaining world of crystalline flora and bioluminescent fauna, cradling the last remnants of their lineage. Her walls pulsed with a gentle rhythm, the very air she breathed filtered through ancient living membranes that hummed with quiet intelligence. "Solara," Elara whispered, not truly speaking but sending the thought out into the ambient consciousness of her home. A warmth bloomed in her mind, a comforting, resonant presence that was both ancient and infinitely patient. "Yes, my child?" "No." The voice was not a sound, but a feeling, a symphony of starlight and uns of wisdom. Solara was the Gaethel's core consciousness, the culmination of countless generations of data, experience, and the very soul of their wandering civilization. She was the mother, the teacher, the silent guardian. The resonance, it's stronger, Elara communicated, picturing the intricate patterns of cosmic energy she now perceived. The discordant hum, it feels like a wound, a tear in the fabric of the great tapestry. Indeed, Solara affirmed. The scar on the cosmos deepens. But so too does your perception, Elara. You are learning to read the threads, to discern their true nature. Wainumia, Diamond. Elara rose from her meditation couch, its surface molded perfectly to her form, crafted from a material that felt like cool living stone. She walked to the central observation chamber, a vast dome of shimmering, unbreakable crystal that looked out onto the endless expanse of the void. Here, the stars were not mere pinpricks but vast, burning jewels, their light painting the Gaethel's interior with shifting hues of sapphire, amethyst, and gold. Nebulae swirled like cosmic paint, and distant galaxies beckoned with silent majesty. But now, superimposed over this beauty, Elara saw the patterns. Not with her eyes, but with an inner vision, a heightened sense granted by her burgeoning connection to the universal consciousness. She saw lines of energy, shimmering currents flowing between celestial bodies, binding them in an unseen network. And there, far in the distance, a patch of these threads seemed frayed, broken, vibrating with that persistent, unsettling discord. "What is it, Solara?" Elara asked, her voice hushed with awe and a touch of trepidation. "Is it an ancient artifact, a natural phenomenon gone awry?" "It is neither, and perhaps both, my child," Solara replied. "It is a resonance from an earlier age, a consequence of immense power unleashed without understanding the delicate balance of the cosmos. Think of it as a deep echo, a reverberation from a time when other hands sought to manipulate the great tapestry, not to mend, but to reshape for their own ends." Elara focused, reaching out with her nascent ability. She felt the discord, a jarring cacophony against the soothing hum of the universe. It wasn't malicious, but it was profoundly wrong. It was like a beautiful song played with one note constantly out of tune, slowly, subtly, corrupting the harmony around it. She saw its tendrils, like wisps of shadow, reaching out, subtly altering the energetic flow of star systems, causing minor gravitational anomalies, disrupting nascent star formation, even whispering tiny distortions into the minds of sentient beings light years away. It was a slow poison, not a sudden attack. "We must go closer," Elara decided, her gaze firm on the distant, troubled region. "I need to understand its structure, its original intent, to weave a counterpattern." "The journey will be perilous, Elara," Solara cautioned, the warmth in her presence tinged with a faint, almost imperceptible tremor. The closer we approach the epicenter of this discord, the more challenging it will be for the Gaethel to maintain her own harmonious resonance. Her very being is an ode to cosmic balance. This is its antithesis. It is. Elara nodded. She knew the risks. The Gaethel was a living extension of herself, and she of it. If the Gaethel's delicate balance was disrupted, so too would be her own. But the alternative was unthinkable. To let this discord fester, to allow the silent poison to spread, was to doom their future, and perhaps the future of countless others. Prepare for transit, Solara, Elara commanded, her voice gaining a new timbre of authority. Set a course for the nearest stable jump point to the anomaly. We will navigate the rest manually by feel by instinct. A ripple of energy flowed through the Gaethel's crystalline structure, a subtle shift that Elara felt deep in her bones. The bioluminescent light within the chamber deepened to an indigo, then brightened to a vibrant sapphire. The gentle hum intensified, becoming a low thrumming that resonated through the floor and up her spine. Initiating jump sequence tall. Brace for quantum phase shift. Weaselara's mental voice was steady, but Elara felt the immense computational power that Gaethel was dedicating to this maneuver. Navigating towards a cosmic anomaly of this nature required precision beyond measure. The stars outside the dome stretched, elongated into shimmering streaks of light, then coalesced into a blinding tunnel of pure energy. Elara closed her eyes, not from fear, but to focus on the internal sensation. She felt the universe fold around them, the impossible distances compressed into a single breathtaking instant. It was always a dizzying, humbling experience, a reminder of the vastness they traversed and the delicate dance of physics that allowed their existence. When she opened her eyes again, the tunnel collapsed back into a field of stars, but something was different. The familiar hum of the cosmos was still there, but now, the discordant vibration was undeniably louder, closer, like a persistent, off-key chord being struck just beyond the range of hearing. The Gaethel's inner light flickered momentarily, adjusting, compensating. Sensors? Elara asked, not needing to voice the question aloud. Gravitational fluctuations are increasing by 0.03% every microcycle, Sola reported, her presence a steady anchor in Elara's mind. Minor energetic distortions detected across all known spectral bands. The anomaly's influence is extensive. Elara stared out. The beautiful swirling nebulae now seemed to have faint, almost imperceptible distortions in their colors, as if painted by a hand that trembled slightly. Distant stars twinkled with an odd, irregular rhythm. It was subtle, but to Elara's newly attuned senses, it was glaring. "Show me the source," Elara requested. The vast dome screen zoomed in, displaying a region of space that, to the untrained eye, might have appeared empty. But Elara saw it. A faint, almost transparent shimmer, like heat haze over a desert, but stretched across light years. Within that shimmer, the threads of the great tapestry were twisted, tangled, and frayed. It wasn't a hole, but a knot, pulling at the surrounding fabric, distorting it. "This is the core of the disturbance," Solara projected. "What you perceive as a knot is a cascade of entangled energies, the residue of a forgotten civilization's attempt to harness the fundamental forces of creation. They sought to draw power directly from the very wellspring of the cosmos, believing they could control it. They were mistaken. They harness? They tore it," Elara whispered, the weight of that ancient mistake settling heavily on her shoulders. "They didn't mean to destroy, but they broke the harmony. Intent does not always dictate outcome, child. Power, without wisdom, is a dangerous tool." Chine. Elara spent days in the observation chamber, meditating, listening, reaching out. She ate nutrient paste that tasted of sun-ripened berries, supplied by the Gaethel's self-sustaining systems, and slept in short, restless bursts, her dreams filled with swirling threads of light and shadow. Her connection to the universal consciousness deepened with every passing cycle, the discordant hum a constant, nagging presence. She learned to filter it, to dissect its components, to understand its language of disharmony. She started to perceive the ancient engineers' original design, their ambition, their hubris. They had sought to create a conduit, a super portal, a nexus of infinite energy. But, in doing so, They had stretched the fabric of reality too thin, causing it to tear and ripple, like a fragile silk scarf caught in a hurricane. "I see it, Solara," Elara finally announced, her voice hoarse from disuse. "The original pattern, it's still there, beneath the chaos, like a faint blueprint under layers of defaced art. Can you discern its structure, sufficiently to begin weaving?" Solara asked, her presence filled with a quiet anticipation. "I believe so, but I can't just mend the tear. The forces they unleashed are still active, still trying to pull. I have to create a new pattern, a counter-resonance, one that will absorb the excess energy, dissipate the strain, and gently guide the frayed edges back into harmony." This was the task of the cosmic loom. Elara closed her eyes, her mind already beginning to envision the intricate dance of energy she would need to perform. She saw herself as a weaver, her consciousness the shuttle, the boundless energy of the Yaethil her thread. The Yaethil positioned herself at the very edge of the most intense distortion, her crystalline hull glowing with an inner luminescence that seemed to push back against the subtle darkening of the void around them. Elara sat cross-legged in the center of the observation chamber, her hands resting lightly on the cool living floor. She took a deep breath, drawing in the Yaethil's pure, balanced air, filling her lungs with life. "I am ready, Elara," Solara projected, her presence now a palpable embrace around Elara's consciousness. "The Yaethil will act as your anchor, your conduit. Her systems are primed to amplify your resonance, to provide the energetic stability you will require." "Ein, Gal?" Elara nodded, her eyes still closed. She began to focus, not on the discord, but on the underlying harmony. She pictured the vast interconnected network of stars and nebulae, the silent symphony of gravity and light. She felt the gentle pulse of distant galaxies, the slow dance of cosmic dust. Then, she reached out. In her mind's eye, Elara saw threads of pure energy, shimmering with all the colors of the aurora borealis. These were the raw materials of the cosmos, the fundamental forces that governed existence. With a conscious act of will, she began to draw them towards her, not physically, but through sheer mental intent. It was painstaking work, like trying to untangle a cosmic knot with gossamer threads. The discordant vibration fought back, not with malice, but with the sheer chaotic force of its imbalance. It tried to pull her thoughts astray, to distort her focus, to overwhelm her with its dissonance. But Elara was anchored by Solara, by the unwavering harmony of the Yaethil. She let the discord wash over her, not resisting it, but observing it, understanding it. She found the core frequency of the ancient tear, the primary note that was so jarringly out of place. Then, she began to weave. She took threads of pure, vibrant light, imbued with the Yaethil's own balanced energy, and began to form a new pattern. It was a counter-resonance, a soothing melody designed to gently coax the frayed edges back together. She wasn't fighting the tear, she was creating a new pathway, a bypass that would absorb the destructive energy and redirect it back into the harmonious flow of the universe. It was a dance of intention, a symphony of thought. She envisioned golden threads of gravitational stability, silver threads of light-speed communication, sapphire threads of cosmic dust formation, all intertwining, flowing, creating a new, intricate design that would act as a gentle patch. Sweat beaded on Elara's brow, though the Yaethil's ambient temperature remained perfectly regulated. The effort was immense, draining her mental and spiritual reserves. She felt the raw power of the universe coursing through her, amplified by Solara, channeled by her own will. At times the discordant hum threatened to shatter her concentration, sending sharp mental pains through her skull. She gritted her teeth, drawing on an inner strength she hadn't known she possessed. Focus, Elara." Solara's voice resonated, a steadying hand on her consciousness. "Breathe with the universe. Let its rhythm guide your hands." "Inanya, online," said Timos. Elara focused on the gentle thrum of the Yaethil, on the quiet pulse of life within her crystalline walls. She remembered the stories Solara had told her, of ancient weavers who had mended broken stars, guided rogue comets, and whispered life into barren worlds. She was part of that lineage now, a guardian of the cosmic tapestry. Hours bled into days, Elara lost all sense of time. Her body ached, but her mind was alight, a beacon of concentrated will. She wove and rewove, adjusting, refining, ensuring every thread was perfectly placed, every resonance perfectly tuned. She was building a bridge of light, a gentle dam against a raging, silent river of chaos. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the discordant vibration began to lessen. The sharp edges of its cacophony softened, mellowed, becoming less jarring. The faint distortions in the nebulae outside the dome began to smooth themselves out, the colors regaining their pristine brilliance. A wave of profound exhaustion washed over Elara, but it was accompanied by an even more profound sense of accomplishment. She had done it. Not fully, not completely, but she had established the initial weave. The counterpattern was active, humming with its own gentle resonance, slowly, patiently, working to bring balance back to the wounded section of space. "You have succeeded, Elara," Solara projected, her presence now radiating a deep, heartfelt pride. "The primary phase of the mend is complete. The cosmic wound is beginning to heal." Enja, and meow. Elara opened her eyes. She looked out at the stars. The shimmering haze of the anomaly was still there, but it was fainter, more diffuse. The threads, which had been so tangled and frayed, were now beginning to gently coalesce, guided by her intricate new wave. The silent poison was being neutralized, its influence receding. But the work was not done. Elara knew this was just the beginning. The ancient wound was vast, its influence stretching across light years. Her current weave was like a single perfectly placed stitch in a garment that needed mending across its entire breadth. She had created a stable starting point, a beacon of harmony in a sea of discord. "It will take time," Elara murmured, her voice weak but resolute. "And more weaving. We'll have to follow the threads, push the balance outwards, one star system at a time." "Indeed, my child," Solara agreed. "K great tapestry is vast, and its mending is a task of generations. But you have laid the foundation. You have shown us that it is possible." Ein. Elara stood, her legs trembling slightly. She looked out at the infinite expanse, at the shimmering tapestry she was learning to mend. She saw not just the task ahead, but the promise, the potential for true cosmic harmony. The discordant vibration still hummed, a distant memory now, but it no longer held the power to terrify. It was a challenge, a calling. And as she gazed upon the universe, a new understanding dawned upon her. This discordant note, this ancient mistake, was not just a threat. It was a teacher. It had pushed her, forced her to reach beyond her limits, to connect with the very essence of existence. It had revealed the true power of empathy, of balance, of the gentle art of mending. The Ithel began to shift, a subtle adjustment of her course. They would not stay, not yet. They would move to the next point of significant distortion, and Elara would begin to weave again. The journey was long, the task immense, but Elara felt a profound sense of purpose. She was a weaver of stars, a guardian of harmony, and the universe awaited her next touch. The Ithel began to shift, a subtle adjustment of her course. They would not stay, not yet. They would move to the next point of significant distortion, and Elara would begin to weave again. The journey was long, the task immense, but Elara felt a profound sense of purpose. She was a weaver of stars, a guardian of harmony, and the universe awaited her next touch. Their next destination, Lyra, the Hyathel's gentle AI informed her, was the whispering wastes of Exilos. It was not a waste of matter, but of connection. A vast, shimmering nebula, home to crystalline beings known as the Exilosians, who communicated through resonant frequencies and shared thoughts. But a cosmic anomaly, a ripple in the psychoetheric currents, had caused their shared consciousness to fragment. Thoughts drifted like lost echoes, memories scattered like dust motes in the void. Loneliness, a concept alien to their collective being, had begun to settle upon them, chilling their crystalline forms. As the Aethel approached, Elara felt a peculiar ache, a sympathetic vibration of profound isolation. The nebula pulsed with a muted, fractured light, each shimmer a potential thought, a potential memory, orphaned from its kin. She settled herself at the astral loom, its luminous threads shimmering in response to the nebula's disquiet. Lyra projected the Excelosian's fragmented thought patterns onto the loom's surface, a chaotic tapestry of half-formed images and unheard whispers. Elara closed her eyes, reaching out with her empathy. She felt the chill of their separation, the quiet desperation of beings designed for unity, now adrift. With a deep breath, she began to weave. Her fingers, guided by instinct and compassion, selected threads of pure, resonant light. She didn't try to force their memories back together. That would be unnatural, a violation. Instead, she wove threads of connection, of reassurance, of belonging. She wove patterns that encouraged gentle recognition, that softly guided the fragmented thoughts to find their rightful place, not through force, but through a natural, empathetic attraction. It was like tuning an orchestra of a million instruments, each one playing a different, lost melody, and helping them find their way back to a harmonious symphony. Hours passed, marked only by the shifting light of the loom and the slow, steady pulse of Elara's own heart. She felt the Excelosian's loneliness recede, replaced by a tentative, then growing, hum of reunion. The nebula outside the viewport began to glow with a softer, more integrated light, its shimmers no longer frantic but flowing, like a river finding its course. When she finally lifted her hands, exhausted but content, a profound sense of peace settled over the Jatiel. Lyra's voice was a soft whisper. The Ilosians hum with gratitude, Elara. Their collective consciousness is reforming, stronger and more resilient than before. Elara smiled, feeling the warmth of their renewed connection ripple back to her. She had mended not just a distortion, but a profound emotional wound. Their journey continued, carrying them deeper into the cosmic tapestry. The next distortion was far more intricate, a place Lyra called the Chronos Stream. It wasn't a nebula, or a world, but a river of pure time itself, flowing erratically through a cluster of systems. The temporal currents here had become turbulent, causing ripples that affected the nearby planets. Entire cities found themselves out of sync, moments repeating, futures flickering, pasts dissolving. Life on these worlds was a dizzying, disorienting dance of temporal instability. The Yaethel had to maintain a precise temporal bubble around itself to avoid being caught in the chaotic currents. From her vantage point, Elara saw structures phasing in and out of existence, beings living the same minute countless times, or experiencing decades in a single breath. The emotional impact was one of profound disorientation, fear and a desperate yearning for stability. Direct intervention with the Chronos stream is highly dangerous, Lyra warned, her voice laced with concern. Even a small miscalculation could unravel entire epochs. Elara understood. This wasn't about fixing time but about helping those caught within its chaotic flow to find their footing. She couldn't mend the river, but she could help the swimmers. At the astral loom, the threads of light now pulsed with an erratic rhythm, mirroring the temporal distortions. She focused, not on the grand sweep of time, but on the delicate threads of individual experience. She wove patterns of calm and continuity, threads of gentle presence that helped minds anchor themselves in the yin of. She crafted subtle harmonies that brought a sense of flowing present, even amidst the temporal eddies. It was like teaching a dizzy child to focus on a single point, to breathe deeply, to trust that their own internal rhythm could guide them through external chaos. She felt the pervasive fear of the inhabitants, the profound sense of being lost in a temporal maze. She poured her empathy into the weave, a steadying hand on a trembling shoulder. She wove threads of patience, of acceptance, of the quiet understanding that even in flux, there was a form of eternal truth. She helped them not to fight the current, but to find their own stillness within it. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the frantic energy outside the Vehale began to subside. The phasing structures settled, albeit still gently shimmering at the edges of their temporal zones. The beings on the planets below, though still experiencing the unique flow of their reality, no longer felt the crushing weight of disorientation. A sense of quiet acceptance, of being present in their own unfolding moment, began to emerge. They are finding their temporal anchors, Lyra observed. Their internal clocks are calibrating to the gentle rhythm you've introduced. The fear is receding. Elara felt a deep satisfaction. She had learned that mending wasn't always about restoring things to their original state, but sometimes about helping beings adapt to find harmony within a new, complex reality. Their next journey took them to the songless spheres of Kylar, a system of planets renowned throughout the charted galaxies for their vibrant, resonant culture. The Kylar communicated through complex melodies, built their cities as symphonies of light and sound, and expressed every emotion through intricate sonic tapestries. But a profound silence had fallen upon them. Not the silence of peace, but of absence. A deep, pervasive quiet had suffocated their communications, their art, their very capacity for shared emotion. The reason was unknown, a slow decay of empathy, perhaps triggered by some forgotten cosmic hum, or simply the gradual forgetting of how to truly listen. As the Yaethel entered the Kylar system, Elara was struck by the eerie stillness. Massive, crystalline spires, once vibrant with light music, stood mute. Grand plazas designed for communal sonic dances lay empty, their resonant surfaces now echoing only the void. The Kylar themselves, though physically present, moved with a muted, almost ghostly silence, their once melodic forms now still. Elara felt a profound sadness, a pang of loss for a beauty she had never known, but could sense had been so vibrant. This was a different kind of distortion. Not a physical tear, or a temporal shift, but a wound in the very soul of a civilization. How do you mend a song that has been forgotten? How do you reintroduce a frequency that has faded from memory? The Kylar's internal empathic resonators are severely diminished, Lyra reported, her voice hushed. Their capacity for shared resonance is almost non-existent. They no longer know how to send or receive the emotional songs that define their species. Elara sat at the loom, its threads now strangely silent, almost dull. This would require more than light or continuity. It required ing-sounding, resonance, the very essence of connection. She closed her eyes, reaching deep within herself for the universal hum, the primal vibration that underlies all existence. She sought the frequency of pure empathy, the melody of unconditional understanding. She began to weave, not with her fingers alone, but with her entire being. She wove threads of shimmering sound, invisible to the eye, but palpable to the soul. She drew upon the echoes of the Xylosian's renewed connection, the gentle rhythm of the Kronos stream's peace. She wove a tapestry of soft, guiding songs, not loud or intrusive but subtle, like a forgotten lullaby trying to find its way back to a sleeping child. The challenge was immense. She felt the heavy inertia of their silence, the deep-seated resistance to connection that had become their norm. Doubt gnawed at her. Could she truly awaken a dormant empathy? Could one weaver reteach an entire civilization to sing? She felt the weight of their isolation pressing down on her, an almost physical burden. But then, as she poured more of herself into the loom, infusing it with her own compassion and fierce hope, something began to shift. A faint, almost imperceptible hum resonated from the Kylar planets, a whisper in the cosmic silence. Then, a subtle shimmer of light from one of the mute spires, a fleeting spark of color. It was a single fragile note, the first tentative vibration of a forgotten song. Elara wept, tears of relief and exhaustion. She kept weaving, building upon that tiny spark, amplifying it gently, weaving pathways for it to spread. She helped the Kylar remember the joy of harmony, the comfort of shared resonance, the beauty of 1,000 voices blending into one. Slowly, tentatively, the hum grew. Whispers became murmurs, murmurs became soft melodies, and finally, a gentle rising chorus of sound began to fill the Kylar system. It wasn't the vibrant symphony of old, not yet, but it was a beginning. The Kylar were remembering how to sing, how to listen, how to connect. Elara had learned the profound resilience of the spirit, and the quiet power of a single spark of hope. The journey continued, but with each mend, Elara felt the cumulative weight of the universe's sorrows. The vastness of the task, the sheer scale of cosmic imbalance, began to take its toll. Her fingers, though still nimble, sometimes trembled with fatigue. Her mind, though still sharp, occasionally felt clouded by the echoes of 1,000 different pains she had absorbed and transmuted. Elara, you were doing extraordinary work. The universe is brighter because of your touch. Remember the Exilosian's renewed hum, the Kronos stream's gentle flow, the Kaila's awakening song. Your strength is not just in your weaving but in your compassion. Lyra's words were a balm, reminding Elara of the tangible impact she was making. But even as she acknowledged the victories, a deep intuition told her that she was approaching something fundamental, a source of deeper discord. The Yaethel eventually detected a final central distortion, unlike any they had encountered. It wasn't localized to a single planet or a system, but seemed to emanate from the very fabric of existence itself. Lyra designated it the heart of the cosmic web. It was a nexus point where the dimensions were thinnest, where the threads of reality were most frayed, where the fundamental weave of the universe was not merely distorted but profoundly wounded. Many of the smaller distortions Elara had mended, Lyra hypothesized, were merely symptoms of this deeper foundational wound. This wasn't a problem to fix, but a fundamental tear in the tapestry of everything. It wasn't about a specific world or people, but the foundational essence of consciousness and connection across all existence. Elara knew, with a certainty that resonated deep in her bones, that this would require everything she had. It would be the greatest, most profound act of mending she had ever undertaken. She spent days in quiet contemplation, preparing herself. She reviewed the countless distortions she had encountered, the myriad forms of imbalance she had gently guided back to harmony. She meditated on empathy, balance, and the gentle art of mending, allowing their principles to flow through her, becoming part of her very being. The astral loom, sensing the magnitude of the task, glowed with an unprecedented intensity, its threads pulsing with an almost divine light. It was ready. And Elara, though weary, knew she was ready too. The Yaethel brought them to the heart of the cosmic web, a place of breathtaking, terrifying beauty. It was a swirling vortex of unimaginable colors, where reality almost seemed to unravel, where stars were born and died in silent, ephemeral bursts of light, and where the very concept of time and space seemed to bend and weep. There was a profound, aching silence here, not empty like the Kailas, but heavy with the weight of cosmic sorrow, of fundamental disquiet. Elara descended from the Yaethel in a small shielded shuttle, landing on a crystalline platform that seemed to float in the heart of the maelstrom. She brought the astral loom with her, placing it carefully in the center of the platform. The ambient energy of the heart of the cosmic web resonated through the loom, causing its threads to sing with a chorus of pure vibrating light. She sat before it, not with her usual focused concentration, but with a profound surrender. This was not about specific threads or intricate patterns. This was about infusing the entire weave of existence with pure, unadulterated empathy, balance, and acceptance. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, letting the universe flow through her, letting her own essence flow into the universe. She began to weave, not with her hands, but with her soul. She poured herself into the loom, drawing on all her experiences, all the mends she'd performed, all the joy and sorrow she'd witnessed across countless worlds. She channeled the silent gratitude of the Ilosians, the steady peace of the Kronos stream, the awakening song of the Kaila. She became the loom, and the loom became the universe, and she, Elara, became one with the cosmic weave itself. The process was intense, overwhelming, yet profoundly peaceful. She felt the myriad threads of reality pass through her, the joys and pains of every sentient being, the birth and death of every star, the ebb and flow of cosmic tides. She did not try to control them, but merely to infuse them with a gentle, loving touch, to mend the frayed edges with compassion, to balance the discordant notes with understanding. A wave of warmth, soft and all-encompassing, spread outwards from the heart of the cosmic web. The swirling chaos resolved itself, not into static order, but into harmonious flowing patterns, like a grand silent symphony of light. The profound, aching silence was replaced by a gentle, steady hum, the quiet song of a universe at peace with itself. When it was done, Elara opened her eyes. She was utterly exhausted, yet radiant with an inner light that seemed to shimmer from her very pores. The astral loom glowed softly, its work complete, its purpose fulfilled. The Yaethel, hovering nearby, was bathed in the gentle harmonious light emanating from the mended heart. The universe, subtly but profoundly, was more whole. The light from the heart rippled outwards, a wave of calm and connection, touching every star, every nebula, every living thing. The distortions would still arise, for change was the nature of existence, but the fundamental weave was stronger, more resilient, infused with a deeper capacity for healing. Elara leaned back, resting against the loom, feeling its gentle pulse beneath her. She was no longer just a weaver, she was the weave itself, infused with its ancient wisdom, its boundless compassion. Her long journey, this chapter of her immense task, was complete. She had mended the heart, and in doing so, had mended a part of her own soul. She knew the universe was vast, and new distortions would always emerge, requiring gentle hands and empathetic hearts to guide them back to balance. But, for now, the great work was done. She closed her eyes, listening to the soft, harmonious hum of a universe gently breathing. She could rest, knowing she had woven wonder and harmony into the cosmic tapestry, one gentle thread at a time. And as the gentle hum of the universe cradled her, Elara drifted into a deep, well-deserved sleep, knowing that the power of empathy, of balance, and of the gentle art of mending would always endure.